Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson Football Channel for a Chelsea news video with a spin. We've got two big player stories to talk about today, and one of them is about a free agent next summer who goes by the name of Paul Pogba, and there's also Raphinha from Leeds. And I want to talk about both of these players because they're players that Chelsea have been linked with before, but there's also a massive conversation that I said I was going to have with you lot this week about Chelsea's attacking impotence, lack of fluidity. We're going to look at what all of our attackers have done so far this season, compare that to what we know about Raphinha, and wonder and question and debate whether or not Raphinha would be a better signing than some of the attackers we have at the club now. Before we get into any of the news though, I would love to ask you guys to subscribe to the George Benson Football Channel if you haven't already done so, and if you could be so kind as to hit the like button on this video today. It's a good gauge of whether or not you guys like this kind of style of comparison between news stories. It kind of gives us a bit more of a statistical, numerical overview as to whether or not it's a good idea or whether it's not. And it also, of course, gives me the opportunity to give my opinions. Paul Pogba, first of all. Let's talk about this geezer, shall we? On his day, I think very few people in the world can deny that Paul Pogba can be a world-class footballer. For a player to be considered world-class, he has to do this on a consistent basis, which is why Paul Pogba has always been a big question mark in many people's eyes. On his day, fantastic. How many days in the year does he want to be that world-class fantastic player? Let's ask Paul, shall we? Let's see what he has to say about it. The Telegraph have reported that Paul Pogba will not be signing a new deal at Man United. He's a free agent in the summer, and the proposals that he's going to receive are going to be from a lot of the top clubs in Europe. I think people will see Paul Pogba at Manchester United. Since he signed from Juventus, they've been going through managers. They've been trying to re-identify with an identity, and it hasn't worked. They've bought in Ralf Rangnick, they've got Cristiano Ronaldo, and there's still a bit of a shambles. They're currently in the top four, but United want to be challenging for titles. Pogba's decided he does not want to stay, and you can bet that there's going to be many teams in the Premier League that will offer Pogba something. Now at Chelsea, there's been debates this week that I've posted on my YouTube channel where we've discussed whether or not N'Golo Kante will extend his contract beyond 2023. Will Jorginho extend his contract beyond 2023? There's a big part of me that thinks one of those central midfielders could well leave the club this summer. There's also a massive part of me that knows and believes that Declan Rice is the number one midfield target. However, that will cost in excess of 100 million plus more than signing Paul Pogba would. So seeing Pogba, free agent, bringing this up again, it does make you sit, question and wonder. I remember a few months ago, I did do a poll on Twitter and asked, Paul Pogba on a free, Declan Rice for 100 mil. It's not like Pogba is in his 30s, ticking on and not able to still do it at the top level. There is just so many questions about his attitude, about his presence in the dressing room. Is he disharmonising that Manchester United dressing room more than he's bringing leadership and more than he's bringing good? But the question always comes back. Kante, Pogba, together for France, it's astronomically brilliant. Could they replicate that at Chelsea? I believe they could. So, signing Paul Pogba on a free, I keep changing my mind on this one over the course of time. But now that we're in middle of February, and this summer is going to be when it happens, Pogba moving on from United, at least put in a proposal, Chelsea. If we're talking about spending big money and potentially needing to replace two world-class midfielders in the next year and a bit in Jorginho and Kante, if we can save, yeah, he's on massive wages, we get that. If we only have to spend big on one of them, a Rice or a Tchouaméni, then surely going for Pogba on a free is a good idea. Let me know your thoughts on that one in the comments below. We move to talk about Leeds United's Raphinha. And this is where I want to start comparing Raphinha to Chelsea's faltering attack. Now, as a result of this, it is quite evident that we're approaching this one from a negative angle in terms of Chelsea's current attacking players. Me and Matisse got slated in the podcast comments the way that we just discarded Timo Werner. I mean, that's the way the comments portrayed the discussion. I think when we're talking about selling attackers, it isn't always necessarily a case of, I don't like him, so we get rid of him. I think a lot of it is down to the fact that Chelsea have so many players in these attacking wide areas, central areas, but not a single one of them is really delivering the kind of things that make them feel safe in the team. There isn't one player above and beyond, performance-wise, statistic-wise, above and beyond everybody else that can be like, right, we know that we mould the attack around this guy. There's not a single one. If you include Lukaku as well, there's still not a single one that we can really look at as being the spearhead, the man who starts no matter what. I'd say, performance-wise, Mason Mount brings the most consistently to the team of all of our attack-minded players, but even then, he isn't the most direct attacking player out of all of these players we're going to discuss. Raphinha from Leeds has been reported as one of Chelsea's long-term targets. We wanted him a while back. We were looking at him when we were looking at Mendy, when we were looking to sign Mendy from Rennes. So Raphinha has come to the Premier League. At Leeds United, he's been excellent. He's been fantastic. He's got that Brazilian flair that I know it's cliche, but it's true. He's Brazilian. He's got that flair. He's got that ability to grab the game by the scruff of the neck for his team, take players on, drive forward, shoot from range, which praise the holy being that exists. We need somebody who can just take a shot from outside the box. Ironically, we scored a few good goals from outside the box so far in 2022, Ziyech, Kovacic, but on a consistent basis, Chelsea are too predictable. We try and pass the ball into the goal. We work the ball into the box by playing countless passes on the edge of the area, and 9 times out of 10, we come away empty-handed. We don't manage to finish it, and I think a lot of that would be different if we had players who opposition defences had to come out for, because they know that if they don't, they're not going to patiently wait for a pass, they're going to hit one towards goal. So if we take a little look at Chelsea's players that we currently have in these attack-minded positions, we're going to begin by talking about Callum Hudson-Odoi. This season, 27 appearances, only 3 goals and 6 assists. One of them came as a substitute. That is not the kind of stat that makes you sit there and think, right, Chelsea build their team around Callum Hudson-Odoi. I know that football is not all about these numerical figures. It isn't about that quantitative data that we're trying to collect to big up and prove why a player is good at football. Every single one of Chelsea's attackers, I believe, individually, is a wonderful player, a talented player, who potentially could be at any other club in the world and deliver more than what they're doing right now at Chelsea, which is beyond frustrating to look at. Callum Hudson-Odoi, what does he need to improve on? He needs to take more players on. He needs to take more risks. He needs to be a lot more involved in winning the ball back in the deeper areas of the pitch and then carrying it forward, as opposed to just playing it sideways or getting somewhere, turning back and then giving it to a central progressive midfielder. That is what, in my opinion, Callum Hudson-Odoi needs to do. I also think his shooting needs to dramatically improve. Too many times, way off target, not clinical enough. Hudson-Odoi, though, very quick player, has that ability, can see a pass, does create chances, but consistently needs to improve with the numbers. We move into Kai Havertz this season, 28 appearances, 6 goals and 4 assists, and one of them, of course, winning Chelsea the Club World Cup. I believe that out of all of the attacking players, eventually, when we look back at all of their Chelsea careers, I know that Kai Havertz is going to come good. I think the big goals that he's scored are testament to the player's ability, to the player's mental power, and I think Havertz at the moment, the results that he is inconsistently providing, again, you see the theme coming here, I think it is a result of Chelsea not having that idea as to how we're going to attack. The beginning of the season was fine, because it revolved around Reece James, Ben Chilwell running forward. Kai Havertz has also been incredibly unlucky this season. He picked up COVID just as he was getting into form. Now, I think we need to build upon that goal he scored in the Club World Cup final. Build on that energy, build on that confidence, and see the best out of what is undoubtedly an incredibly good attacking player. We've then got Mason Mount. 7 goals, 8 assists in 34 games this season. Brilliant numbers, I think, from Mount. I think it's not just the goals and assists. The contributions are good from Mason Mount so far this season. Still think they could be higher, certainly. But again, he's been in and out of the team a bit more recently. Little injury now as well means he's going to be out for 2 weeks. But I think there's no question, really, in any like proper Chelsea fan who knows anything about football, I'm sorry, like I'm kind of over the people that don't get Mason Mount now or just want to criticise him. I think it's a no-brainer that this man is a phenomenal footballer. Works incredibly hard for the team, gets back, tracks back too, is actually pretty strong considering how small he looks. So I think Mason Mount is one of those players who, whatever we decide to do going forward, Mason Mount is going to fit into this Chelsea team somehow. Whether that is bringing in a Paul Pogba and playing in a 4-1-4-1 or sticking him as one of the two in midfield. I think Mason Mount is going to come good at Chelsea. I don't think playing as two of the holding players is going to work, but Mason Mount is a phenomenal footballer. Moving into Christian Pulisic, 20 appearances, 3 goals, 3 assists, and half of those contributions have come from the bench. Christian Pulisic is, in my opinion, the most frustrating of all of the forwards, because I think on his day, which again, like on his day, it's such a horrible footballing phrase. On his day, Pulisic is one of the most explosive players in world football. But consistency, it's not there. I think Christian Pulisic has been unlucky with a lot of the appearances this season. It's kind of the opposite of stat padding with Pulisic because he's played so many games out of position. And the thing I love about Christian Pulisic is that he works so hard for the team. When he's asked to play somewhere that as an attacking footballer, he clearly does not want to be a wing-back. He doesn't want to be in that position. But he does it, he does the best that he can, fights for the team, fights for every single ball, gets thrown down to the ground, gets himself up, and he picks up and gets on with it. And I think even though the injuries have been such a massive thing with Pulisic, I think that as long as he can stay fit, we know he's going to give everything to the team. We just got to get him involved more. The biggest problem is, how do we get these players involved more? Because we're so good defensively, yet as soon as we go forward, I don't know about you lot, I think we all agree, it looks like we've got no idea what we're doing. We build up so slow, we go sideways too often, and I'm looking, and as we're talking about this today, I hope that you guys feel the same as me when you listen. How, when we know how good these players can we not get it like this right now? It's so frustrating. We move into Timo Werner, who again, beyond frustrating, we see him at Leipzig, such a brilliant goal scorer. 21 appearances, 6 goals, 2 assists, 1 as a substitute. Timo Werner just needs to do more. He could have had so many Chelsea goals, if not for the bad luck of VAR. But again, we can say bad luck, but we also need to say, well, you got to be better at being onside, mate. Haven't you really? If you're a top striker, the top strikers know how to hold the runs. So, Timo Werner, we know he needs to do more. Finishing's not been good enough. Movement's fantastic. The way he involves others on the pitch is fantastic. But he's not that clinical goal scorer that Chelsea bought him in to be. That's why we spent 100 million on Romelu Lukaku. Hakim Ziyech is the next one. 6 goals, 4 assists, and arguably the most in form of all of our attacking players right now, including Romelu Lukaku. So, Hakim Ziyech, coming off that right-hand side, can be an incredibly dangerous player. We've seen him score big goals, brilliant goals, incredible passes. We didn't see it enough. Now we're starting to see it. So, I believe if Chelsea are going to mould anything off of any of the attackers right now, Hakim Ziyech's got to start, in my opinion, based off the way he's been playing. I also say Havertz, and that's probably through the middle. So it leaves one spot over on that left-hand side that I think everyone's fighting for right now. Hudson-Odoi, Timo Werner, Pulisic. I think those guys are fighting for that position. Even Mason Mount to an extent too. Because I think we need to focus on Kai Havertz. We need to focus on Hakim Ziyech. And because we've got Lukaku, we've also got to focus on this guy too. So maybe it's playing 2 strikers. Ziyech on the right. Who's it going to be on the left? That's the big question. And bringing it back to Raphinha, if we look at his stats for Leeds and the way that he is so much more direct and runs at players, you just wonder if maybe, if Chelsea offload a couple of these attackers that we talked about in today's video, which I believe they will have no choice because some of them will want to leave because they're not getting enough game time. I think Raphinha is a great option as a replacement for one of these players or 2 of these players. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The thing with all of the players we've mentioned today, and I know I've said this, but people will just take the fact that I focused on negatives just to say that George don't like any of them. All of these players, even Werner, who we all seem to slate the most, I think are brilliant footballers. But right now, in the system that we're trying to play, Thomas Tuchel's biggest headache is figuring out how we get the best out of these talented players and how we stop being so impotent and wasteful when we're going forward. And I had to pose the question to you lot. Raphinha do you think he'd get in this team over all of these attacking players? Whether we're going with 4 forwards, and that includes Havertz and Lukaku as strikers, whether it's a 3, whatever formation it may be, do you take Raphinha at Chelsea? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Who would you sell? I know that it's been a week of like, oh, we're talking about selling players and getting rid of players a lot, but you guys have also said that I sit on the fence too much these days. So at this moment in time, I think Raphinha would get into this Chelsea team. I think we need so much more from Hudson-Odoi, Timo Werner, and Christian Pulisic. And those 3, out of all the ones we've mentioned in today's video, I think are the 3 most at risk. But anyway, Pogba, Raphinha, that's the news. Comparing it to our attackers, we're not happy with the stats of any of them. Some are really coming into form. Is Raphinha the guy to replace them? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and I'll see you guys later. Come on, you Blues.